What up? This is Raphael with NBA Draft Junkies. I'm doing something a little different today. And in this episode, you know what? I'll be honest. I was kind of struggling with coming up with a topic. You know, with the Locked On NBA Draft Network, we have shows 4 days a week. And sometimes the topics can be redundant. And also, we have at least, 70 or 80 days until the draft time. I kind of stole this idea a little bit from one of the co-hosts on Locked On NBA Draft. So I opened up for my followers on Twitter to ask me questions. So this is like my first time doing a mailbag. I'm curious to see some of the questions. I guess I'm gonna read some of them live. I know like when people sent me questions, I once I read it was a question, I just kind of saved it. So I'm trying to read them live, and if I get some like really ridiculous questions, forgive me if my facial expressions or my reaction is a little bit off, but let's go. Let's get started. All right, the first question is, who should the Knicks take with their 2 picks? As of today, the Knicks will have 2 picks, probably somewhere in maybe the 18 through 22 or 23 range. I guess we'll kind of find out within the next couple of days. Man, if I'm the Knicks, I would probably look at taking a point guard that you can develop and then maybe like a stretch 4. So I would gamble on Kai Jones. Actually, if you haven't checked it out, go to my YouTube channel. I just posted a video on Kai Jones. It was with my guy, Corey Nepper. We just kind of had a little conversation about our thoughts on Kai Jones, who I think is one of the most intriguing prospects in the draft. I mean, I think he has a really, really high ceiling. And also there are some things that are a little scary and concerning for me. But if I'm the Knicks, I would look at taking him. As far as point guard, I think you can get Sharife Cooper in that range. I think he would provide some excitement. Maybe not be the starting point guard early in his career, but I think that he would add a little different dynamic to the Garden. So I don't know how Knicks fans would feel about this. I mean, I've had a lot of dialogue with Knicks fans about my past selections for them, but I don't know. Tell me how you feel about a Sharife Cooper, Kai Jones draft class for 2021. But again, those are 2 positions that I would address if I were New York. A stretch 4, and I mean, I guess some may think Kai Jones is a 5, but yeah, stretch 4 and a backup point guard. All right, next question is, what position do you think Vrenz, Usman, and Roko will play? So that's Vrenz Blindberg, Usman Garuba, and Roko Prkachin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. In the words of Moses Malone, fo. If you don't remember where that came from, it was probably like in the early 80s. I believe a reporter asked Malone about the Sixers playoff predictions for that year, and he said Fofofo, as in 4-4-4, and predicting 3 straight sweeps. I think they may have been like 1 game off. So to answer that question, I think they're all 4s. They're all a different type of 4s. I think Garuba may end up playing a lot of 5 in closing lineups because even though he's like undersized at 6'8", he has a 7'2" wingspan. I think he has a high upside as a defender. I think he's a safe pick, to be honest with you. I think Vrenz is going to be like a 4 that can be like your secondary ball handler. I've kind of compared him a little bit to Chandler Parsons, like a healthy Chandler Parsons, not the guy that the Mavs paid all that money to, or not the guy that he got in Memphis. But I think that he could be that type of 4 where he can run side pick and rolls. I mean, he's a 6'10" playmaking 4. Maybe some 3. I'm not sure. Maybe in a very creative lineup, he may play some 5. But, I see him as a 4. Prkachin, the same thing. I think he can do a little bit of everything. But I think, to be honest, 4 is really the only position that I think he can play in the NBA. Do you think that the top 5 in this draft is so good that nobody would trade a top 5 pick? Yeah. While I love the talent up top, I do not think that there are some teams who would not want to add another 19-year-old. Washington, Minnesota, Toronto, Sacramento. In my opinion, would they consider shopping their pick for a vet? This is a good question. On one hand, I totally agree that those teams probably don't need another teenager. But on the other hand, you don't really get better value than a top 5 pick on a rookie contract. You get upside. You get guys that are pretty much playing for pennies in NBA standards. I don't see a team in the top 5 trading their pick. Let's see if it's the Wizards. I don't think the Wizards would trade their top 5 pick. I mean, there are some questions if Bill is going to be there long term. Russ is on the wrong side of 30, even though he's very productive. If I'm Washington and I end up with a top 5 pick, if Mobley's available, that's a no-brainer there. I would take him. Even if it's like Jalen Suggs, you could have him, learn under Russ for a little while until you figure out what you're going to do, if you're going to totally rebuild or try to add some vets. Minnesota's tough because there's a lot of redundancy there, unless you think Kuminga could be like a 4, like the 4-man of the future, if he could be like this, I don't know, Jaylen Brown type player, but Jaylen Brown plays a lot of, I think he's listed at shooting guard. Toronto, I think 100% they would keep the pick. I think they're totally going to be in rebuild mode, so I don't see them trading for a veteran. The Kings, Sacramento's on like a treadmill. Like, they're literally running in place, going nowhere fast. I wouldn't be shocked to see them trade Buddy Hield or Harrison Barnes to cut some cost and then look to add another young guy. So, yeah, if those teams that were listed are in the top 5, I don't really see them trading their pick. I mean, like for what? Is Sacramento going to trade for a guy that's going to come in and help them win right away? I don't know. All right, the next question is 80 percentile outcomes for Trey Murphy and Deshaun Hyland. What type of player do you think that is, and what role do you see that type of outcome for them being on a playoff team? As far as Murphy, I think that he has a defined role as a floor spacer. He can play 2 to 4, maybe, in some situations. I think I see him as like a Cam Johnson type. As far as the role on an NBA team, like I said, a floor spacing 4, he had a crazy 50, 40, 90 season this year. And yeah, I just see him as a floor spacer on an NBA team. As far as Deshaun Hyland, Bones. Like, Bones is like the best NBA draft name in this particular class. He's one of my favorite guys to watch because he has like this playground game. He has some Jordan Crawford in him. I'm a big Jordan Crawford fan. If you ever get a chance to watch him play pickup, he will give your favorite NBA player buckets. Just, it's kind of tough being in the league. I think his game is suited to be like a number 1 option or a superstar. And it's tough I think he's just had a tough time fitting around other players. But he was productive when he had a chance to play. So I see a little bit of that in him. Maybe a little bit like as far as Hyland, maybe a little bit of like Jamal Crawford, even Will Barton, even though he's smaller than those guys and doesn't play the same exact position, but I still see like this slim, tough guy with some offensive creativity. The best role for him would be on a playoff team. I see him as a guy that would be like a microwave scorer on a playoff team. So that would be my, I guess, my best outcome for those guys.